Friends, we can all see that many white bloggers have millions of followers. Please support me too, because my followers are still few. Black bloggers also deserve to be famous. My friends, let's unite and lift each other up. Please press subscribe button and like. The crack of bone against marble echoed through the courthouse like thunder. Officer Brent McCrae hit the floor hard, his badge spinning across polished stone, while blood trickled from his nose. Above him stood Lieutenant Maya Carter, a woman of unwavering resolve. The crowded courtroom gasped as she calmly adjusted her navy whites. "You picked the wrong one today," she said quietly. "How did a routine court appearance turn into the moment that would shatter a corrupt system? Let me tell you the whole story." The morning sun cast long shadows through the towering windows of the Jefferson County Courthouse. Its golden rays illuminated dust motes that danced like tiny witnesses to the drama about to unfold. Lieutenant Maya Carter stood at the security checkpoint, her posture military perfect despite having been awake since 0400 hours. The pressed whites of her naval uniform caught the light, the rows of ribbons above her left breast pocket telling stories of deployments most people couldn't imagine. "Ma'am, please place your bag on conveyor," the security guard said, his tone professional but tired. It was 8:47 a.m. on a Tuesday that felt like every other Tuesday in this building where justice supposedly lived, but often seemed to be on permanent vacation. Maya complied without complaint, her movements economical and precise. 28 years of life had taught her patience. 6 years as a Navy SEAL had refined it into an art form. She wasn't here for anything dramatic, just a routine appearance as a witness in a case involving stolen military equipment that had somehow ended up being sold on the black market in Jefferson County. Her testimony would be brief, clinical, and then she'd be on the next flight back to Virginia Beach. Behind her in line, Officer Brent McCrae shifted his weight impatiently. At 43, he'd been with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department for 18 years, long enough to develop the kind of swagger that came from never being held accountable. His uniform was slightly too tight around the middle, evidence of too many late-night fast food runs, and not enough time in the gym. But what McCrae lacked in physical fitness, he made up for in attitude, the wrong kind. "Jesus Christ," McCrae muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. "How long does it take to check one damn bag?" The security guard glanced up nervously. Everyone knew McCrae. Everyone knew his reputation. The complaints filed against him over the years could fill a filing cabinet, but somehow they always seemed to disappear. Maya retrieved her bag and started toward the elevator bank, checking her phone for the courtroom number, room 847. Judge Patricia Thornton presiding. She'd testified in military tribunals before, faced down Taliban fighters in hand-to-hand combat, infiltrated compounds where one wrong word meant death. A civilian courtroom should have been easy. "Hold that elevator," McCrae called out, jogging to catch up. Maya pressed a button to keep the doors open, a simple courtesy that would soon prove to be the first link in a chain of events that would change everything. McCrae stepped in immediately, filling the small space with the scent of cheap cologne and stale coffee. His eyes swept over Maya. Taking the uniform, the braided hair pulled back in a regulation bun, the calm expression on her dark face. "Military, huh?" he said, his tone already edged with something sharp. "Let me guess. Administrative assistant secretary." Maya's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Naval Special Warfare," she replied evenly, watching the floor numbers climb. McCrae snorted. "Right. They'll let anyone claim anything these days. Probably got those ribbons at a surplus store." The elevator dinged at the 8th floor. Maya stepped out without responding. But McCrae followed even though the directory clearly showed the Sheriff's Department offices were on the 3rd floor. The hallways stretched before them, all marble and mahogany portraits of long-dead judges watching from the walls like disapproving ancestors. A few lawyers hurried past, briefcases in hand, their conversations dying as they noticed McCrae. That was the effect he had. Conversation stopped, eyes averted. People suddenly remembered urgent business elsewhere. "You know," McCrae continued, falling into step beside Maya, even though she hadn't invited his company, "I've seen plenty of people like you come through here. Think that uniform means something? Think it makes you special?" Maya stopped at the water fountain, taking a slow drink while organizing her thoughts. In Kandahar, she'd learned that sometimes the most dangerous enemies were the ones who smiled while sharpening their knives. In Virginia Beach, her commanding officer, a black woman who'd risen to captain despite obstacles, had taught her something else. Pick your battles, Carter. Not every insult deserves your energy, but when you do fight, make sure they remember it. Officer, Maya said, turned to face McCrae directly for the first time, I'm here on official business. I'd appreciate it if you'd let me proceed to my destination without further commentary. Something in her tone, the calm authority of someone used to being obeyed, made McCrae's face redden. He stepped closer, close enough that Maya could see the broken blood vessels in his nose, a testament to years of heavy drinking. Official business, he mocked. You people always think you're on some kind of important mission, but I know what you really are, just another quota higher playing dress-up. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Down the hall, a pair of attorneys had stopped pretending not to watch. One of them, a young black woman named Denise Washington, who worked in the public defender's office, recognized the scene all too well. She'd filed 2 complaints against McCrae herself after he'd roughed up her clients during arrests. Both complaints had vanished into the void of internal affairs. Should we do something? Denise whispered to her colleague, an older white man named Tom Bradley. Tom shook his head slightly. McCrae is untouchable. Chief's golf buddy. Unless someone's got video and witnesses and a death wish, nothing's going to happen. But Denise noticed something they didn't. The way Maya stood, weight balanced perfectly on both feet, hands loose at her sides. This wasn't the posture of fear. This was the stance of someone who'd been trained to assess threats and neutralize them with maximum efficiency. Maya turned to continue toward Courtroom 847, but McCrae grabbed her shoulder, his fingers digging in hard enough to wrinkle the pristine fabric of her uniform. I'm talking to you, he snarled. When a law enforcement officer addresses you, you show some respect. The contact was the line crossed. In SEAL training, they called it the moment of decision. That split second when you had to choose between engagement and evasion, between maintaining cover and completing the mission. Maya had made 100 such decisions in combat zones where the wrong choice meant coming home in a flag-draped coffin. Remove your hand, she said, her voice dropping to a register that would have made her squad members back away slowly. Now. McCrae laughed, the sound echoing off the marble walls. Or what? You'll report me? Get in line, girl. I've got a stack of complaints taller than you, and guess what? I'm still here. He squeezed harder, his other hand moving to his belt where his baton rested. It was a gesture meant to intimidate, a threat barely concealed. What McCrae didn't know was that Maya had faced down men with suicide vests, had infiltrated compounds where every shadow could hide a shooter. A small-town bully with a badge and an attitude problem wasn't even close to the worst thing she'd encountered this month. Last chance, Maya said. Remove your hand, and we can both walk away from this. More people had gathered now, drawn by that instinct that tells humans when violence is about to erupt. A bailiff peered out from Courtroom 845, his hand moving instinctively to his radio. 2 clerks stopped filing documents to watch. Everyone knew something was about to happen. Everyone except McCrae, who was too deep in his own sense of invincibility to recognize the danger signs. You threatening me? McCrae asked, his voice rising. You threatening a police officer? That's assault right there. Maybe I should take you in right now. Teach you some respect for authority. His hand moved from her shoulder to her wrist, twisting behind her back in a motion he'd practiced on dozens of suspects. Usually the ones who couldn't afford good lawyers, the ones whose complaints would be dismissed as resisting arrest. That was when Maya moved. To the witnesses, it would later seem like magic, like something out of an action movie that couldn't possibly happen in real life. But Maya had spent years perfecting the art of violence, learning to apply exactly the amount of force necessary to neutralize a threat without killing it. The Navy had invested millions of dollars and thousands of hours, turning her into a precision instrument of controlled aggression. She pivoted on her left foot, using McCrae's own grip against him. Her free hand came up in a palm strike that caught him in the solar plexus, driving the air from his lungs. As he doubled over, Gasping, she swept his legs with a move she'd learned in a dusty camp in Coronado, California, where instructors who'd survived things that would give civilians nightmares taught her to fight like her life depended on it. McCrae hit the marble floor with a sound like a sack of wet cement dropping from a height. His badge, which he'd polished that morning while complaining to his wife about those people taking over, went skittering across the floor to stop at the feet of Judge Patricia Thornton, who had just emerged from Courtroom 847 to see what the commotion was about. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. McCrae on the ground gasping for air, his face purple with rage and oxygen deprivation. Maya standing over him, her uniform still perfectly pressed, not even breathing hard. The crowd of witnesses, phones appearing in hands like weapons of a different sort. Everyone suddenly remembering that they had the power to document what they'd been too afraid to report. He assaulted her, Denise Washington said loudly, making sure her voice carried. I saw the whole thing. Officer McCrae grabbed her without provocation. Got on video. Someone else called out, a teenager who'd been there with his mother for a traffic violation hearing. His phone had caught everything from McCrae's initial grab to Maya's textbook perfect takedown. Judge Thornton, 71 years old and 3 months from retirement, had seen a lot in her 40-year career, but she'd never seen anyone drop Brett McCrae like that. Part of her, the part that had watched McCrae swagger through a courthouse for years, intimidating witnesses and making minorities feel unsafe in what should have been a sanctuary of justice, wanted to applaud. Someone call security, she said instead, her voice carrying the authority of 4 decades on the bench. And nobody moves until we sort this out. McCrae was trying to get up, his hand reaching for his weapon, but Maya had already stepped back, hands visible and non-threatening. She knew the playbook. Black person defeats white cop always ended the same way, unless there were witnesses, unless there was video, unless there was someone in authority willing to see what actually happened instead of what the narrative demanded. You're under arrest, McCrae wheezed, finally making it to his knees. Assaulting a police officer said, do you want to know the fate of the heroes? Please post part 2. Subscribe to the channel and continue watching. Your opinion and support are important to me. Leave it in the comments. Thank you.